Rise up, Jackalhead crew. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Doctor Who Gut Check. Today we're doing the penultimate episode of Season 1 of Doctor Who, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Where to start with this? I'll try and not beat around the bush with this episode because there's a lot to unpack. There's this episode where there was a lot of excitement about this possible returning element from the Third Doctor era. And obviously, who is Susan Triad? Are we going to find out who Ruby's mom is? Yeah, there's a lot of things to unpack, and of course, the return of Sutekh, which is wild to think that me and Luke did a video back in December about who is the one who waits, and we mentioned Sutekh within it, and here we are. He's back after 48 years. We'll talk about Sutekh in a minute. So, where to begin? What did I think of The Legend of Ruby Sunday? Well, I thought that it was...
I cheered, I shouted, I fist pumped the air, I cried, I stood and cheered. It's absolutely everything that you hoped it was going to be.
I felt like a kid again. I had this sort of bubbly excitement feel throughout watching this episode. I was on the edge of my seat because it's just so tense and gripping about where are we going to go with this, and you're all waiting for sort of the final 5 minutes of this story to get the answers. You know, in this story, it felt very classic Russell T Davies finale. This is very much setup. This is putting all the pieces on the board ready for the Empire of Death. So it'd be interesting to rewatch this story because I think that this story could come across as sort of reactionary, but it's once you know the answers to this story, it probably won't have the same sort of impact. But I think that when I rewatch it, probably going to pick up on a few more little details throughout this story that will, you know, make perfect sense when we get to sort of the big reveal of Sutekh, because the story sort of hints at Sutekh quite early on, and when it's Mel and Susan Triad, when you know, Susan Triad goes, "Oh, just call me Sue Pet," and I thought, that's got to be Sutekh. It's got to be if you're gonna be that, because it just sounds so similar to it. But before we go on to Sutekh, because I'm really jumping the gun, because you can tell that's the main thing we want to talk about. Yeah, the opening shot we've seen throughout the trailers, that is the big money shot, and it was great to sort of get that because the Doctor's on a mission to find out who this woman is, and obviously get answers about Ruby Sunday. So that whole setup was brilliant, with the Doctor reuniting with Rose and that little reference to how the 14th Doctor's doing, and of course Donna, and of course we have Ruby's family's involved with Carla and Cherry Sunday, and we see Mrs. Flood start to play a bit more of an integral role within this. I don't know if this is going to be the end of Mrs. Flood's story, but I feel like Mrs. Flood could possibly be one of the harbingers. I think that she's going to turn out to be a good guy in the end. I feel like Mrs. Flood could be the character that saves the day. But yeah, I think we might get answers about Mrs. Flood next week, which would be interesting, because is Cherry Sunday safe? I think what they're doing is playing Mrs. Flood to look like she's a bad guy when she's not. So it'll be interesting to see. And will Cherry Sunday actually get a cup of tea? You know, because everybody needs a cup of tea. The time window, I thought that was brilliant. I really enjoyed sort of the retro feel, like the big computer bangs. It just screamed 1970s Doctor Who. It just felt like I was watching a Pertwee episode with that sort of computer bank sort of setup, and then we've got this quite futuristic set of the actual time window itself. And I thought, you know, with the sort of the snow coming down and sort of the CGI sort of version of the church, and sort of recreating you know, 2004, I thought that was a really neat concept, and that whole scene was just very tense about are we finally going to get to see Ruby's mom, and there was a little bit where I thought, oh, we're going to get the trickster, because I think we saw a little bit of the jaw of the mysterious woman figure, and I thought that looks very sort of trickster-esque. And then we get the reveal of the Beast, and I thought, oh, are we actually doing the Impossible Planet Satan bit? Because Ncuti Gatwa said one of the villains he would love to face was the Beast, and I thought, wow, we're doing the Beast. And then it wasn't the Beast, but then we got sort of a reference to the Beast, and that sort of cloudy figure around the TARDIS. I thought that was really sort of intense, and then obviously we lose one of the unit soldiers and we sort of see them turn to sand. I thought that was a real great effect within it, but then that part of me made me go, is it Kronos? Because we sort of saw like these sort of yellow sort of things, well, look kind of bird-like with sort of this sort of weird sort of flapping motion. I thought, oh, are we getting Kronos? Like, my mind was just going all out, and just this sort of the bubbling excitement of going, oh my god, it literally could be anything. And I think, you know, this story, it's continuing the sort of family aspect, you know, with Ruby, but not only the Doctor, with the idea of Susan, that it could be Susan, and she sort of splintered across that. And I loved how Russell sort of tapped in on sort of fan theories that, you know, Susan, the anagram of TARDIS, like, it just sort of dismisses those straight away. They may come back again, and it could actually be, you know, we could get Susan to return eventually, which will be great. So I loved that, and it makes me feel like maybe the Devil's Cord could have been like episode, you know, 6. I think that would have been quite a cool little sort of link with sort of the two sort of Pantheon gods, really. And I love the little quieter character moments we get within this story, with sort of Kate talking about her father and the Doctor, and how, you know, the Doctor's trying to sort of shake off the enigmatic figure, which is, you know, very, very pertwee, which is rather nice. You know, so I loved those little quieter moments, and I loved sort of the setup with sort of Susan, Triad, and the Doctor going, right, let's see if that. And I loved the sort of aftermath of, you know, the soldier dying, and sort of that playing on the Doctor's conscience. But this is going to be the first death of many, because, you know, the next story is called Empire of Death, and you have Sutekh returning, the god of destruction and carnage. So there's going to be a lot of, you know, death and destruction, because he finds that good. And obviously the Doctor meets Susan Triad and sort of starts sort of questioning her, you know, about her dreams, and then that sort of sets things in motion. And this is when the story just ramps it up to the next level, because the music, and then we sort of get the sort of transformation of Susan Triad and one of the Harbingers, which I think that is such a great effect, sort of that sort of half skull. It's very creepy, very unsettling. I think that'll be quite scary for kids to watch. And obviously we get sort of the list of Pantheon gods within it, like the Mara, the Trickster. So that's really cool. So they could be possible contenders coming up, which will be great to see sort of the Mara return, because I think the Mara would really fit this new era very well, because again, the Mara is just very sort of psychedelic and dreamlike aspect of it. I think, you know, with the Disney budget, we can do some all-out crazy stuff with the Mara. But we're not here to talk about the Mara. We're here to talk about good old Jackalhead boy Sutekh. We got a little glimpse of Gabriel Wolf's voice. It, you know, made me think, oh, it's got to be the Beast, because we've had the reference of the Beast, and then having the little bit of Gabriel Wolf's voice, and then getting sort of the text flickering, and there you get Sutekh. That the anagram was all wrong, and there it is. So that was just an absolute whoa. We're doing this. The music, I loved it. Had this great sort of eerie feel to it, and I loved it because it just added to sort of the atmosphere to it, of this sort of grand return. And Sutekh's sort of redesign, very much playing on to the actual sort of jackal design, what we sort of first see with sort of the noise what we get within Pyramids of Mars. And it's interesting that that noise sort of come back, and we sort of get answers what was going wrong with the TARDIS. It was Sutekh, which, yeah, I can't wait to sort of explore that idea fully and get the full explanation of how that happened within it. So that was great. But the redesign of Sutekh, I like sort of that they're going for the more traditional set look for Sutekh. I do hope that we actually get the traditional Sutekh look, because I think it's so iconic within it, and I think it would be a shame not to see that sort of redesigned for the 21st century. Though the Jackalhead designed great with sort of the red eyes, and it's interesting that if you look in the middle of, you know, the Jackalhead, you can see a ruby within it. So is that going to link to Ruby in some way? So that's interesting. But yeah, I would love to see the traditional Sutekh design make an appearance, because I think that this is great and it's sort of flexing what the show can do. Because why wouldn't you have Sutekh in this sort of animalistic sort of form that he is this, you know, going to cause absolute carnage and violence within it. So yeah, I love the design of Sutekh, but like I say, I want to see the more traditional Sutekh design. And yeah, everything about that ending is just chef's kiss. I love it. I feel like I've skipped majority of the story, but and I just feel like I've probably verbal diarrhea, just go, "Wow, Sutekh, isn't it great?" But yeah, as somebody who loves, you know, the Pyramids of Mars, it's one of my favourite classic stories and one of my favourite stories of all time. It just feels so lovely, and I hope the Empire of Death does enough for Sutekh, because I'm scared that we're gonna run out of time within this, because I don't want Sutekh to be dispatched easily. You know, and I think Russell's finales, there's a tendency for the Deus Ex Machina, and I hope that this is a grand sort of finale. So Russell, don't muck it up, because this has been a long time coming. He is the one who waits, and we have been the one who waits for the Sutekh's grand return. So yeah, this is an amazing episode. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It could possibly be my favourite episode of the season. We'll just have to see how Empire of Death goes to get the full gist of the picture, but my goodness, we're in for a ride with this one. So yeah, loved it. Let me know your thoughts on The Legend of Ruby Sunday and the return of Mr. Jackalhead Sutekh. And yeah, I'll see you next time for whatever we've got planned next. But yeah, I'm just in complete awe. I couldn't sleep because I was that excited. Just going through the episode in my head. But yeah, really good episode, and I can't wait to see how it concludes in Empire of Death. So thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.